To further divide up our terrestrial habitats, we can look at terrestrial biomes. So that's a way of dividing the landscape on the surface of the Earth into different types of habitats that may include a variety of ecosystems, but on a large scale, what is the distinctive characteristics of that larger habitat. So when we refer to those larger habitats, we refer to them as being biomes. So some of the terrestrial biomes you get, you can get temperate grasslands, so our own grazing systems would be modelled off the species that you would commonly find in a temperate grassland. Deserts, so areas which experience normally very low rainfall and very extreme temperatures, either very hot temperatures or very cold temperatures, which makes it hard for vegetation to establish itself in those habitats. Which with the low rainfall kind of creates quite stark, barren landscapes. Then you've got temperate forests. So again in New Zealand, we're kind of subtropical temperate forests. So we've got a combination of these two. They are generally in the northern hemisphere dominated by deciduous trees, but our own forests have got all evergreens mostly. So they don't function quite like a deciduous forest in the northern hemisphere, with quite distinctive times of year and different stages in their vegetation at different seasons. Our own forests are more even in their growth throughout the year, although there's obviously a peak in growth in summer and spring and a decline in growth in autumn and winter. You've then got polar ice, so just stark landscapes on top of ice, but being a solid surface that represents a terrestrial habitat. Tundra are high grassland environments, so you often get them in Central Europe, where it gets quite high and the temperatures can get quite extreme in those environments. And the combination of extreme temperatures and altitude and extreme weather makes a very kind of bleak habitat where only really tough tussock kind of grasses can survive well. And then savanna, so that's more of a moderate, often even quite a warm habitat. In Africa, for example, and in Central America, quite close to the equator, you get large savanna habitats where grasses dominate those environments, but you get patches of woodlands also occupying those environments, and the spread of those woodlands is being managed by fire and browsing of animals and rainfall as well. Chaparral habitats are ones where it's kind of scrubby, low bushland habitat. So Australia is a good example of that, in areas which have experienced a lot of fire, either naturally or more commonly by people. You get a kind of a regrowth of really scrubby, dry bushes and grasses in those habitats, and California was also an area that has that. Boreal forests, so they are ones which you get some of the largest forests in the world are boreal forests, and you get them quite higher than in the northern hemisphere. So a lot of Russia is boreal forest, and Alaska and those areas, in Greenland, those areas that are quite close to the Arctic rim, you get vast boreal forests, and they're dominated by quite tough pine trees, and they're quite massive forests and quite simple, so there's not too much diversity of plants in those forests. And then you get tropical forests, which are very diverse, so there's a wide variety of different plants and animals that occupy it. There's a high rainfall, there's a good amount of light hitting the surface of those trees, and they're very productive ecosystems. And then you get mountains, so often above the tundra habitats, or above either the boreal forests or tropical forests or temperate forests, you get quite a stark mountainous landscape where there's often only low-lying, really tough succulent type plants that are able to survive in those mountainous regions. So this gives us a bit of a broad way of looking at all the different broad scale terrestrial habitats on Earth, and then within each one you get different ecosystems. So you might get streams, ponds, patches of forest, patches of grassland, all occupying a particular habitat, such as a temperate forest habitat or a tundra habitat.